Cool, welcome. So you may know this already, you might not. Show and Tell is a monthly tradition here every third Thursday. Oh, sorry, I was trying to. So every third Thursday of the month, we do this little roundup of lightning talks. Folks who are either members of Indie Hall or part of our like larger Philly community who want to share something exciting with us, whether that's a passion project or a hobby, or what are your commuting habits, or how to build a mountain bike, or any number of wonderful things. So we have 4 presenters today. Each person has 10 minutes to talk to us about whatever they want, and then 5 minutes to answer all of our questions. Presenters, this is the microphone that connects you to the Zoom recording, so people are streaming in. So it's not amplifying to anybody in this room, it's just connecting you to here. So please make sure that you're mindful of talking into the microphone, even though it's kind of funky and can't hear any difference. And when people ask questions, please repeat the questions into the microphone or try and sum it up so that folks online get an idea of what we're doing. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Jag to you all. Yay!
Hey everyone, I'm Jag, and I've been wanting to learn how to do like data visualization recently, and yeah, so I thought it would be cool to start with what I like, my daily habits of like commuting. So I thought it would be cool to share that with you all. So basically so I didn't used to like public transportation. Basically like it was, as you've experienced, like we used to use tokens. It was slow. It got caught in traffic all the time. It was confusing, like when I first moved to Philly, and it can be disgusting sometimes. Like you could smell pee or vomit, like often. So I saw this in an article, like if the concourses don't smell like urine, they smell like bleach. And then here's another one, like 65% of Philadelphia's 83 bus routes run late. So it's not only slow, it's also late. But there's even an annual run that tries to like outrun the bus, the SEPTA bus. But there are benefits to using public transportation that I really like. That's why I take it all the time now. First of all, it's cheap. It's like, depending on where you are, it's like a fourth or a fifth cheaper than like taking rideshare. And it takes up less space on the roads. Like there's a visualization that I saw on Philly.com. Basically, like if you like ride in a bus, it just takes up less space because there's more people in there, instead of like one person in one car. And it can also be like more environmentally friendly. I wouldn't have thought that like a hulking bus would be like fuel efficient, because like, I don't know, why would it be? It's just like, it's big and it blows smoke all the time. But it turns out that just 7 passengers in the bus would make it more fuel efficient than riding a car. And actually with SEPTA, a lot of buses are already hybrids, and there's like about 20 that are like fully electric. So they're getting there. And also accessibility, like if you can't ride a bike or if you can't get into an Uber, you use SEPTA. So like all SEPTA buses are wheelchair accessible, and a lot of their stations are wheelchair accessible with those elevators and stuff. So basically I wanted to see like my personal like transportation habits, but first I needed to get the data. So if you go to septakey.org, you actually like, if you register for septaki.org, you have like a list of basically like all your rides, like not just the train rides, but also buses and trolleys. So they're all in one place. If you can see like this screenshot, it's, if you've been to septaki.org, it kind of sucks. But this, you can go to like beta.septaki.org and it looks a lot nicer. And it's like less finicky. So you can go there, but so I had to sort of, there's no export function into like a CSV. So I had to like copy paste each row in there into like an Excel sheet so that I could like play around with the data. So that's how I got the SEPTA stuff. And then with Lyft, it's easy because like in the app, like I just ran into it, you can just export your stuff into a CSV and they'll email it to you. So it makes it easy to use the data. So, and then I was kind of stuck, like, so I now have all this data. What do I do next? You can process the data in a lot of ways, but I personally know JavaScript, so I use that. There's this thing called Vega Lite. It looked intimidating, but it was actually like pretty straightforward to use. So it's just like plug in the data, tell it what you want, and it spits it out. So that was pretty convenient. So one of the plots that I made, the very first plots that I made after like screwing around with it was a scatter plot. Basically, you can see on the y-axis is like all the stops, the bus stops and the train stops and trolley stops that I've taken, and at the bottom you see like which months, the months, the time. I could only go as far as July because that's when I registered for septaki.org. So you can see like, since I go to Indie Hall, there's a lot in 2nd and 5th, but also I live on 2nd and Girard, so there's a lot on Girard. So like just with the very first graph, I could like, I mean, it wasn't surprising, but you know, it was interesting to see like where I went. I also like went to, what was that? I know like 8th and 11th are in there too. I can't quite read it, but yeah, it just like lets you do that. And then you could also like, I also like map the data. It was kind of tough because I had to like get the GPS locations of, or like the latitude, longitude of like each of each row in the Excel sheet, but the outcome is pretty nice. So there's like a heat map of like where I went. Basically there's like a couple of like blotches here and there, but mostly it's in Girard and Indy Hall and Center City. So it's like, that's because that's where I go most often, at least in the last 9 months. And if you zoom in, you'd see like the actual stations. There is something, I think I might have like screwed up the data a little bit, because like it doesn't point on 2nd. And I know that I go there a lot, and the scatter plot says that I go there a lot, but it doesn't show on the map. So I have to go back to the data, but it's generally right, especially like where I live up on 2nd and Girard. And you can, if you compress the scatter plot, you can see like when I started taking the bus. So if you look at the blue one, so I usually take the L, but then around October, I was like, you know, maybe I should take the bus more, and I did, and I don't know, it was just interesting, like when the point was that I started taking the bus. Oh, okay. Oh shit. And then this is like the times when I went to Indie Hall, or like when I traveled. So basically you can see that on Tuesday I don't really travel much, but it's kind of all over the place, since sometimes I work from home. and it looks like I travel more on the weekends before because I just do chores. It is comparing with the SEPTA information. So basically, this was kind of like my breaking point. Like I spent so much money on Lyft that it's like the purple one. I spent so much money on Lyft that like I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna just take public transportation to save money. So that's like, so in the 3 months I was spending so much money, and like I decided I shouldn't use it as much now, and you can clearly see when I decided that. And I like it's just, and I didn't decrease the number of rides that I made, because like I still moved, I kept on traveling, but you know, my costs are like super low now compared to what I did before. If you break it down quarterly, you could see like a more drastic difference of like the number of rides that I made, and compared to Lyft and SEPTA. Bonus round. So there's one more transportation that I didn't talk about, which is made by the city of Philadelphia, and it's the Indigo bikes. Question. Shit. um, so I tried to plot it, and it looked like it was kind of a mess, but you can see that like maybe a lot of it is in Center City. And if you zoom in, you kind of see that, but it's still kind of a mess. But I wonder what people think here. Like, when do you think people borrow Indigo bikes? You know, I assumed that it was like for recreation. Like when do you think people borrow Indigo bikes? Yeah, like what time do you think? Yeah, I thought that too, but it turns out that people kind of use it for work. So you see that there's a clear definition. So you can download the data on Indigo, but basically it's 9 to 5, and they hardly use it on the weekends. So it looks like people use Indigo bikes mostly for work. So that's it. Yeah. That was less time than I thought. Yeah. No, unfortunately, especially on SEPTA, so the question was, do I have any data on how long the trips take? And with the trains and buses and trolleys, I don't, because you only swipe in once to get in, and they don't know when you get out. So that just doesn't exist. I guess you could figure it out based on your. It's tough. I think Lyft does provide that, but I forget. Yep. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Or like the weather. Like, does it affect like the number of bike rides during the day? So like the question was, can I compare the data with other disparate things, like my drinking habits? Um, uh, that yeah, I think there's a lot that I could still learn from this data. I feel like I've barely scratched the surface, but um, I guess with the drinking stuff, I just don't have that data. Um, but yeah, yeah. Oh, huh. I guess I suck at math, so I'm not really sure how to do that. The question was, how do can I guess I don't really quite understand it. Uh, I'm sorry, I don't know. Yeah, yeah, please. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I guess it, no, I don't have any statistics, but I guess you can take the month and kind of subtract it, right? Like, how would you go about that? Like, yeah, yeah. I guess I just don't have any like actual statistics. Um, yeah, maybe in the future. Hmm. Yeah, I don't. But I use this thing called Transit. It's not an official app or anything, but so you can download it from the App Store or like on Android. It's called Transit, and it gives you like if there's like someone in there, it's like real time information. But it's good enough that I got to like learn the bus system. uh, yeah, yeah, yeah. So I'm still trying to figure things out. But yeah, it's my first one. I just thought it would be like fun to share. Yeah. Oh yeah. 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 I agree. That's why in this graph I still use Lyft. So I think they kind of like complement each other. Like there are parts that are like there are times when, especially like when I'm late for something or like when I'm carrying like heavy groceries, that it's just more convenient to use like rideshare, like Uber or Lyft. So I think they kind of complement each other. I don't think about it as like one or the other, but yeah, there are limitations like heavy baggage. No.
Any other questions for Jag? Just catch up to him when show and tell's over. Come on over. So let me find. Awesome. Arrows? Would you like? I can full screen it, I think. Okay, cool. Yeah, and I think if you do play, then you'll just be on the arrows. There you are. So everyone say hello to Meg, our first Meg of the day. One more.
Hi, everyone. Hi, thanks for having me. Hi, everyone online. Oh, that's awkward. Okay. Longtime friend of Indie Hall, so thank you so much for inviting me. It's really special. I'm here today to talk about my job and how you might be able to help. So raise your hand if you have ever participated in a charitable walk or run. Most of us, right? So it's really common. It's a really common, what we call in fundraising, peer-to-peer fundraising event, super popular and a great way to raise funds. But I work for Living Beyond Breast Cancer, and we are a national nonprofit located here in Philadelphia, and we do our peer-to-peer fundraising a little different. We do something called Reach and Raise. For 18 years now, we've been holding a large-scale yoga event on the steps of the Art Museum every May. Since we began, we've raised over $3 million for breast cancer survivors and their families. So why yoga? In the early 2000s, our CEO, Gene Sachs, was trying to think of a unique fundraiser for our mission, to support our mission And, you know, at that point in time, walks and runs were becoming really, really popular, but it didn't feel like a really good fit for living beyond breast cancer. We are really the place where people turn once they're facing a diagnosis. So in comparison to a lot of our counterparts like Komen and the Breast Cancer Research Foundation, we focus less on early detection and research and more on what now. So you're diagnosed with breast cancer, what now? We have tons of resources and for both people living with breast cancer, their family, their caregivers, their friends, and also healthcare providers. So we're really the place that people turn. So when you have breast cancer, cancer of any kind really, you are anxious, you're exhausted, you're sick. And walking and running just didn't feel like a good fit for us. So we started Reach and Raise. There are many health benefits to yoga, as I hope most of you know, but it really is a practice that we weave throughout all of the things that we do and all of the resources we give. So when it comes to webinars or printed materials or even our conferences that we host twice a year here in Philadelphia, both for breast cancer and metastatic breast cancer, we like to weave accessible yoga into everything that we do. So these are pictures from our actual event last year. It's a pretty remarkable event. This year, we are hosting it on Sunday, May 19th in the morning. It features a 1-hour yoga class, refreshments, live music, giveaways. We have a vendor tent, and fundraising prizes. So it operates in many ways just like a walk or a run would, where you sign up. You can either start a team or you can participate as an individual. But a fundraising website is personalized and created for you once you sign up. And then you can send that out to your friends and family to help us raise funds for our mission. This year, our goal is to raise $400,000. To help motivate you to fundraise, we have a variety of fundraising prizes, but the one that I am most excited about and responsible for is our t-shirt this year. So it's our lowest fundraising prize level. If you raise $100, you will get a t-shirt with your very own Amberella design. It's been a joy working with her. I know that she won't mind me sharing, but she has a history of breast cancer in her family and is a pre-vivor herself. And she graciously, generously took our tagline, "With you, for you," and created one of her iconic hearts, her white power hearts for us. So they will be on a shirt and available for pickup for everyone who fundraises $100 or more. I'm really pumped about that. I thought you guys would be interested too. So I thought I'd kind of flip my typical presentation on its head and talk about the event first and our mission second. We are, like I said, the place where people go when they're diagnosed with breast cancer, both men and women. Our vision is a world where no one impacted by breast cancer feels uninformed or alone. And our mission is to connect people with trusted information and a community of support. And we do that through a variety of different ways. So we have all sorts of printed publications and online publications. We have a helpline, which is staffed 24/7 for anyone needing to speak with someone. We host 2 conferences a year here in Philadelphia, like I said earlier, one for all stages and ages of breast cancer and another one for those facing a metastatic breast cancer diagnosis. We have breast cancer 360s, which are kind of like mini online webinars based on specific topics. We bring in healthcare professionals to speak. True webinars. We also sponsor quality of life grants here in Philadelphia and in a couple different other locations across the country. But we know that, you know, talking to someone, reading a pamphlet, watching a webinar is all great, but the actual real life ramifications of breast cancer can be really hard, especially financially. So we work with many local hospitals here in Philadelphia to award those going through financial hardship due to their breast cancer diagnosis, small quality of life grants. So, you know, it's not a ton of money, but it could help with rent, their electric bill, their utilities, car payments, travel to their appointments, things like that. And then we have two really, really important leadership volunteer groups that, while we're based here in Philadelphia, they really help us to spread our mission across the country. So our Hear My Voice volunteers are highly trained women and men with metastatic breast cancer. And then our Young Women's Initiative, which really focuses on those who are diagnosed under the age of 40. So I'm sure, I mean, I don't know, I'm in it, I live it, so I shouldn't say that, but you know, one of our counterparts was in the news a few years ago in a bad way when it came to their financials. And one of the things that I am most proud of working at Living Beyond Breast Cancer is that we are highly rated on Charity Navigator and have been every single year since 2004 when they started rating us. We're a 4-star charity, which is their highest rating. And it means that we have the highest standard in terms of reporting our financials, our transparency, and our responsibility for all of your fundraising and donations. Has everyone heard of Charity Navigator? I should work for them. Next, because I am such a big proponent of theirs. They are an independent nonprofit organization themselves that go out and rate all of our nation's nonprofits. So, you know, nonprofits need to be audited every single year. That's cool. But they really are that independent third party that can go in and look at those audit documents and make sure that everyone is above board and then rate it based on all those, you know, financial math documents. So this is really great. So, you know, having a 4-star rating from Charity Navigator since 2004, I think the stat is that less than 1% of our nation's charities can say the same. So, you know, when you are thinking about donating to a charity, I recommend you check them out. So I'm hoping you'll join us. I have lots of paperwork and some free pens on the back table. I'll hang out till the end if you want to come and chat with me. Like I said, it's on Sunday, May 19th in the morning. Our gates open at 7:30, but the actual yoga flow does not begin until 9:30. There's our website. I created a discount code for Indie Hall members that gets you $5 off our adult registration fee. If yoga's not your thing, but you want to support, you can feel free to register as a virtual participant, or you could even volunteer. So if you're interested in volunteering, come chat with me or grab my card and let me know. And there's our social tags if you want to check us out online. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Any questions? Yes. Great. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the question is, yoga is hard. How do we make it fun for about 2,000 people? I agree with you. There are some yoga classes that can be very hard. Lucky for us, we've been working with the same yoga instructor for 18 years, and she helped co-found the event itself. And she really works hard to make sure the class is accessible to everyone and enjoyable. So she's, you know, talking to us throughout the entire thing. She makes the flow really easy, challenging. She presents modifications if you want, you know, if you want, you could like lower your leg, or you could hold this pose for another 30 seconds or things like that. We also have a chair yoga shadow. So our main instructor is on sort of the middle landing of the steps on a stage. Then we have a shadow instructor on a stage at the top, a shadow instructor on the stage at the bottom with a chair shadows. And we have chairs available on site for you. So if, you know, you're feeling a little uneasy or unsure, you can join the chair group as well. And we also have assistants roaming the crowd, helping as needed, trained yoga instructors. Yes. Yes. So it's used when it comes to those who have had a strong family history of breast cancer. They can either be carrying the gene or not, but that's just a general term used for those with a strong family history. Any other questions? I've been working there for just over a year, so this will be my second Reach a Race. I can't. Unfortunately, I'm working. I can't do yoga at this event because I'm working, which is a bummer. But it takes a lot of people and volunteers and bossiness to make this event happen. And so I'm usually, running around behind the scenes while the actual yoga class is happening. But we close down the streets. It's really quiet. It's beautiful. It's, there's not another event like it in the city. So thanks, everyone.
Oh, I have another question. Can we share this discount code through our social media or just with Indie Hall Free? Awesome. Cool. Thank you. Up next, it's you. Come on over.
Here I am. Yeah, right? Yeah, the gift of gab. Are we on camera? Oh, yeah, hi. Wow, okay. Hi, stream, if you're watching. Hi, my name is Mark. I'm here from time to time, usually on First Fridays, and I'm going to talk about our game called Baeond. It's a card game, and we've been working on it for the last year or so. I can use this, right? Can I scroll a bit here? Yeah, there we go. So this is some of the artwork from the game. Her name is Suena. This is our first flagship character that we're sharing. The game is a crypto card game. Does anybody know anything about cryptography? Can we like shout out like a scale of 1 to 10? Like how much do you know about crypto, Bitcoin, blockchain, that kind of stuff? 2, 3, 6. I hear 6. 5. You can hold up fingers. 5 over here. Okay, cool. That really helps me kind of like gauge what to talk about and how much. So we are trying to figure out how we can educate people about this new technology, this new paradigm shift that we have on this new internet that we're building. And when you get right down to it, every single crypto network, whether it's Bitcoin, Ethereum, whatever, they're all based on game theory. They're all just games, ultimately, at the end of the day. They just haven't bothered to apply game design. So we've started approaching the tech from the game perspective first. So what we actually did to start is we designed a real card game first, because what this tech does, it actually gives us this weird new era of technical skeuomorphism, we call it, where our digital objects can now finally more closely resemble the objects that we have in our everyday lives in our meat space that we inhabit. So we actually took the time over the last year to design, I think, the best card game in existence right now. It's like Magic, Netrunner, and Ascension or Dominion all had a baby. If you've ever played a deck building game, it's a lot like that. And what we're doing is we're using a crypto network basically as a card mint. So that's your boy. We're using a blockchain to create non-fungible tokens that represent cards. So the way you can think about it from a player's perspective is it's a lot like Hearthstone, but you can actually trade the cards. When you're playing on Hearthstone, you're playing any video game, the items in your game are just a line in the designer's database, right? What blockchains do, what distributed ledgers do, is make a big, long list that we all share. It's a shared database, effectively. And a lot of what we've seen in the crypto game space to date has been a lot of crypto games that are a lot more like gambling, right? All the games that we've seen so far are all one game, really. They're all playing the game of capitalism. Can you get this token before it's worth a lot of money later and then sell it later? So what we've done is we designed a card game that uses the technology not just for that value add, that benefit of being able to trade the cards, but we're using a distributed ledger specifically so that players own the card mint. So we want to divorce ourselves from a lot of the choices that Wizards of the Coast has to make. For example, if you're a Magic player, True Name Nemesis, a very powerful card comes out, and it's making waves, right? And we need it in the metagame, but it costs $80, and people are upset that they've been priced out. So Wizards has to make this really terrible decision every time they go to reprint cards about, do we piss off the secondary market and deflate that cost and make sure that the metagame is healthy, or do we let the metagame languish and allow the secondary market to continue growing and not piss off our players? Because the whole idea is that it's a collectible card game. So we are building a chain that has governance at its heart, where this is where those numbers are going to be really helpful. Proof of work is what you hear about when people are talking about mining, right? When you hear about Bitcoin, it's actually just a processor thinking really hard to find a set of a string of letters and numbers so that the next block can be appended to the chain. That's also super resource intensive. And a few years ago, a movement started to move towards proof of stake so that we could reduce a lot of the resource intensive nature of mining. And the problem with proof of stake, which effectively asks players of the chain or people who are holding a particular token to lock their token into the network so that they can prove they have skin in the game, that is a pretty effective mechanism to create a trustless network like a distributed ledger. But it has a really major problem in that a pure proof of stake network is asking that every participant in the network also have X amount of value, money effectively, set aside at all times in order to have their voice heard in the network. The idea behind these distributed ledgers has been to remove a centralized point of failure, to decentralize things like economies create sound money. We really think that the way forward for this tech is to apply game design to that game theory. So we're breaking out the governance model away from just the proof of work, just the proof of stake, and we're trying to set up what we think of as the sort of third leg to the crypto tripod that we call proof of play. So we are asking players to be the original owners of their cards in order to influence the network with them. The real world value they have weights how much weight they have in the voting process. But the idea here is that we are starting with an off-chain, no crypto component prototype later this year with 5 decks, 5 characters, and a full rule set that you can play. And the very first players of the game will be the very first people to actually create a wallet on the network and start minting cards. They will be the first people to actually own these digital assets, these digital cards. So the way the blockchain works is still very much up in the air because the crypto space changes and moves so quickly. So we're laser focused on the game itself. We've been working on it, like I said, for the last year or so, and our team is really fabulous. We have former Wizards of the Coast veteran Kelly Diggs, who just did Dominaria. It's his magnum opus. He's amazing. Zach Hill is one of our advisors. He was also at Wizards of the Coast for a good long time. Ryan Block, who you might know from Engadget, sold that. Gadget sold that. And right now he's working on Begin, which is a serverless product, which is actually really neat. And Gary Vaynerchuk is an advisor as well. And the games team at Choice Provisions has been making games for combined 50+ years. So we really took the time to design a really great game. I will be here for the rest of the day. If anybody would like a demo, I would love to do like one demo so that I can show the rules like one time if like we want to gather around a table. But sometime in the afternoon, I'll be around here with the cards out so I can actually show you how to play because I don't really have enough time to do that here. So what we're doing is using we're using the site sort of like a crypto Kickstarter where we are pre-selling the decks of cards. And this has been like kind of one of the difficult things to help people understand is what it is that they're buying, because this is not something that humans have really had an opportunity to do before. To buy a token, to buy a unique digital asset. So we've effectively put up our, what we consider sort of like a white paper, right? We have the rules, we have V1 of the rules, and now we want to get the game into as many players' hands as possible. Thank you. The idea is we want people to go to the website, learn about the game, learn about the universe, learn about the rules, and if they like the project, support us by buying one of these decks. We have another deck coming out in a few weeks for our third character that we're revealing, and then there's going to be 2 more characters, another month and 2 months after that, respectively. But we've been having an issue with who we're resonating with. We're resonating with gamers, players who love this stuff and don't have Bitcoin just yet. So we have a Kickstarter on the way as well for people who want to support with fiat. But this is the best way to support us, and this is the way to get in the front of the line to be able to play the game as early as possible. Really quickly, because I know we're almost out of time, the premise is it takes place in this post-singularity, post-scarcity future where whether you're an organic mind in a synthetic body or a synthetic mind in an organic body, it really doesn't make a difference. You just are who you are. And there's a lot of transhumanism in here as well, because we're in the future. And the powers in the universe are powered by ether. And that's what Swain is doing here. That's what the entire game is about, is we are Beyonders, we are space cowboys and cowgirls running around the solar system, siphoning ether from these rifts so that we can put them into the shared ether network that we all use in order to have these magical powers. And the powers of ether are powered by self-knowledge and introspection and understanding who you are and having empathy for yourself and for your adversaries. She's on Europa, one of the moons of Jupiter. Jupiter's in the background, can't quite see it, at a conduit base. And we'll have a lot more story-wise to share very soon as well. And you can go to Baeond.com to find out more. Sorry, I didn't have a full-on presentation, but how much time do I have left? All right, let's start questions early. Any questions? No, we're actually rolling our own chain. We are going to fork Decred because the on-chain governance is such an important component to the game. Without that component, you might as well just use a database if we're going to be the centralized entity that's actually controlling just about everything. There aren't any chains or platforms around right now that can do what we need them to do. The only exception might be Ethereum, but we don't think Ethereum's going anywhere. So, they just send Bitcoin. They just go to us. They just go to the website and send Bitcoin, and we'll send them a deck. Okay, got it. So it's sort of like that, yes. Right now, we're pre-selling decks specifically only for Bitcoin because we're trying to get in front of the crypto crowd. Right? So we have a Kickstarter coming in a couple of weeks for people who want to support with fiat cash. Make sense? Yeah, what you're buying is a deck of digital assets. You're buying a deck of digital cards that have been minted by the network. And the network is going to be owned by all the players. We want to treat our players more like constituents than customers. This is a game that we think that we could take to space with us. Wizards of the Coast owns the rules to Magic the Gathering, but players, we can all own the rule set to Baeond. And over time, as new cards are minted, it's possible that other progenitors of the game might want to join us in creating cards for the game. Or players might rise up through the pro circuit and want to create cards for the game. So there's a cryptographically signed forum component for the on-chain governance that will allow for other designers, say Ed McMillan wanted to make a cycle of cards for the next set that's coming out. He could propose those cards and the player base could agree that they become canon, they get minted from the network during the next mint run. Yes. We're not really sure yet. This is the paradigm shift is so tremendous with respect to games that a lot of the systems that we're used to in games right now, especially free-to-play games, don't really work or make sense. The way that the cards work because they're digital assets, they retain their value in the real world. We're leaving this sort of broader metagame and competitive stuff to a little bit later once we've gotten the game into more people's hands. The idea behind playing a match is that the cards, when you buy them from the network, they're mostly blank. Each card actually has a little skill tree. So it's a lot like a looter shooter. If you've ever played Diablo, Diablo is a looter. If you've ever played Destiny, Destiny is a looter shooter. We just ripped the shooter out and replaced it with a card game. So as you play a match, at the end of the match, the choices you made during the match will determine the payout of other materials and loot that you use to upgrade your cards. And those materials and loot are also non-fungible tokens and fungible tokens, otherwise crypto assets that retain value in the real world. So when we look at it from a competitive perspective, the way that we see it going is because we've never really had an opportunity to play a game for fun that's actually good, that also incurs incidental incremental value over time, that the pro circuit will sort of have a built-in incentive model where if you're good enough at the game, you can just play it full time. And then that opens us up to a ton of other questions. Like, well, if what you're doing is inherently lucrative, why do you need to share your ad revenue with Amazon if you're streaming on Twitch? If the game that you're playing pays out in crypto assets that you can either sell or put right back into the game, right? So not only that, but it opens things up too from a speculative perspective where, you know, we approach the game asking ourselves, what if we were to take a universal basic income and try and shove it into the shape of a game, what shape would it take? And I think that the answer that we found is it's not a basic income because you still have to do something, but it is a universal accessible income. And that's not something that we humans have ever really had before. It's something that we're getting closer to. But we really think that games are the way that we're going to get like Gen Z and these younger generations to really care about civic action when they realize that there is an actual incentive for doing so on these networks. 1 minute. One more question. Sorry, I babble. Yeah, so the prototype that we're building is completely crypto free. The prototype that we're building is literally off-chain. It's literally just the game itself. There's no component that requires you to understand any of the underlying technology just yet. The most important component is the game's rules, right? Because the idea, the offer here is that the game pieces that you play with will have value at some point in the future, and that's just not going to be the case if the game sucks. So the only thing that matters to us right now is the quality of the game itself. And like I said, because the crypto space changes so much and so quickly, we're holding off on a lot of those things. We don't want to take on any more tech debt than we have to. Thank you for listening. Baeond, Baeond.com. Baeond.com, @GoBeyond on Twitter, @GoBeyond on Instagram, @MarkB on Twitter is me. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks. Nicely done. Come on up. Would you like me just to open all of these? Yes. Well, I think. Well, that's what I think we have to open all of them. Yeah, no, folders don't do that. Huh. Oh, are there videos? Here we go. Is that? Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Last one. This is second Meg of the day. Hello. This is weird. All right, so Mark has inspired me as a segue into my topic. I'm going to start a new coin. It's called Food Coin. It uses seed technology, and it's through a soil distribution, and there is water and sunlight that grow these into crops that we can eat. What am I doing for navigation here?
Okay, so I've always been pretty ecologically minded. My Girl Scout Gold Award project was to do with recycling, and then I kind of got away from it for a while. I'm like, I always take my own bag to the supermarket, but it's been about the last 2 years, coinciding with the 2016 election, that I got incredibly motivated environmentally and ecologically to just double down on everything that I was doing. So I started to do a lot more research. I don't know if you guys know about this book, Drawdown. It's the current considered like industry standard for like the top 75 or 80 things that they look at. How much does it cost? How much does it save? And what is the number of HFCs, the carbon let out into the atmosphere? I don't talk about this very much, but number one is refrigeration. So, you know, I've been like mulling on ways to work on refrigeration improvements and that sort of thing. And so fast forward to January, I go to Columbia for a trip, just down to visit Bill Jones. You guys know I'm ex-Indy Hall member. And I decided to parlay that into doing something where I can learn a bit too. So I go to this, the Spanish school. So Guatape is about an hour on a rickety bus east of Medellin, Colombia. And it's 7,000 feet up. It's a beautiful little city. And you take this tuk-tuk out on some very rickety roads. They're actually in the middle of building it. And it's just these dudes out there hauling, you know, 100-pound stones and placing them and then pouring cement in the middle. That's pretty amazing. And then you get to the Spanish school. And so most people are going here to take Spanish classes in the morning, but they also have a permaculture program. And so that's the classroom. We start out the day with yoga every morning. And then while you're doing yoga, you smell the smells of coffee and breakfast being made coming through. And then everything there is vegan. So they're just, some of the food there is just some of the most incredible stuff I've ever had. And most of it's grown on the farm, or they, you know, barter with people nearby. And my arrow stopped working. Sorry. Oh, am I just on the next one? Yeah, and that's good. Yep. So the eco farm is built all surrounding the principles of permaculture, which we're going to get into. This basically is my talk is on permaculture. And so this is the farm where every day I made them take my picture so that I could actually say, yeah, I was there. They have La Farmacia is one of my favorite things. I'm trying to model this at my house. Is, you know, 21 little plots of all medicinally beneficial herbs. And it's just the cutest thing ever, from oreganos to things that they couldn't tell me what they are, but I have close-up pictures and I'm trying to use Identiplant websites to figure out what some of them are, because they're delicious too. There's the map of what they had that I'm trying to replicate. They have chickens, and my favorite, the goats. Goats just crack me up. Oh, and that's the one thing, right? So their goats are their lawnmowers, and it's like just such a great use of old school technology. They grow sugarcane. Here's my the guy Heatland, is the guy that did my classes every day, and he only spoke Spanish. So, I mean, if you want to learn how to talk Spanish, like take farming classes with someone that only speaks Spanish. And so then that brings us to more of the classroom permaculture. So this farm very much talks about permaculture in a way that it's a replacement for capitalism, and it's an alternative. It was invented in 1978, I believe, 76. And or the term was coined in 76. So I look at it like once it clicked to me what permaculture, what that word actually meant, it really replaced religion for me because, you know, it's looking at cradle to cradle, a full system and full ecosystems to replace everything that you have, right? So a lot of the thoughts that I've been having about around this are most eco villages are in South America and in warmer climates, and what do we really have up here? And so I've been, you know, talking to a lot of my like-minded friends about creating a cold climate eco village and of sorts for, you know, how do we address the fact that it's, you know, 30 degrees outside and I'm like going to my freezer for ice cream, you know, where we can actually, you know, take advantage of the fact that this cold climate exists, and why not use that when refrigeration is one of the #1 issues that we have going on, right? So there's a thing called a California cooler. In California, they have, it's old school, just a cabinet that sits outside of your wall, and you just, you know, keep your goodies in there when it's cold enough, and, you know, you can turn your fridge off at a certain point, you know, not with your dairy obviously, but you know, I'm just like looking at different ways to reinvent that kind of stuff. So this is our permaculture tree that this is kind of where it all started. And so it kind of talks about your first zone is where you stand in your house and what you do there. And then it keeps creeping out until, you know, you're in your community, you're in your state, you're in, you know, a larger environment, and those sorts of approaches. So this was just a capture I did out of one of the books. They have a really nice library there. Basically, I summarized it into this slide though. So first of all, principles of permaculture, you want to look at what you're trying to set up, and then you do your research, and then you start your design, master planning, and then evaluate it and tweak it. And, you know, it's just like software development. It's just like anything else that, you know, you're going end to end. Except I think the big difference with this is that you're, well, not from software development, but more with like urban planning and design. And like they just built a house next to my house, and I can't help but look at it and think that developer is going to sell that building and then has no accountability for what's going to happen to the neighborhood or anything after that. So, you know, if we can build in the aftermath and into the design process, that's, you know, essentially what permaculture is. And I have a little South Philly row home. If I can figure out, you know, how to take that and have the most advanced things, and, you know, for the easiest or most simple solutions, then we can, you know, bring that to other parts of Philadelphia. So I started Philly Green Guild last year with this in mind, and that's kind of a hobby group, but so yeah, so this is 78 was when it was. David Holmgren and Bill Mollison are the ones that coined the term. I wanted to talk about the edge effect because, like, say in Philadelphia, you know, we have one set of things that are going to work, but then as you reach the edges, you've got your suburbs and everywhere that, you know, they have like different house prints, you know, footprints, and different systems or different situations. And so the idea with the edge effect is that, you know, as you'll see, you've got your species over here, your species there, and then that part in the middle is where things get really interesting because of cross-pollination and all these sorts of things. So I thought that was really cool. So here's where I'm at. I've got my vermiculture going in the basement. As far as composting goes, oh yeah, I call it the reckoning because I have this massive colony of worms in my basement, and I'm always like, what are they up to right now? Like, what are they thinking? But there's also pickup services and like the old school, you know, where you actually turn it. The thing about the vermiculture that works so well in Philly is if your house is really small, you can put it in your basement and you just don't worry about it because the worms are going to take care of everything as long as you give them enough food. And I have plenty of that for them. So gray water systems with a concrete back patio. I'm still kind of trying to figure out what I'm going to do because you can actually install something that goes under your sink and you can like send your gray water out to water your plants or whatnot. So in the meantime, I've got these misters out where I collect rain and use that for watering my plants. Obviously, you guys probably all know most of this stuff. Rocket ovens are like these clay ovens that are very cheap and easy to build, and you know, you can have a small footprint and then be able to cook without using gas, something I'm still looking into. What else do we have here? Oh, like bee and insect hotels, bat hotels. These are all things that I either have or am working on deploying. I have a bidet. It's my favorite thing. The $40 fixture that you can just add. Is it time? Okay. The rest of it is all just the cutest stuff on this farm. Like, I know. Well, there's a dream catcher over the hammock. Like, and then, yeah, they had their own library there. Yeah, and then I really want to rewire my toilet too. I don't know. If anybody's interested in like rewiring everything, let me know. And what questions? No. I mean, there's a lot, right? So this one, actually, I meant to talk about this, is the Permaculture City. It's the only city-based one that I'm aware of. And so, yeah, I've been learning a little bit out of that. Like aquaponics is another one that I just got a fish tank. And so you're gonna grow your food directly on top of the fish tank, and then the fish will, you know, fertilize it then and there. You know, so there's a lot of ideas, but I don't think they've been adapted to the South Philly row home so much. So that's the kind of trick to it. But, you know, I mean, there's a lot of references. Are you looking for something specifically to check out? Okay. Yeah. So I had these bags made for Philly Green Guild for buying bulk at the supermarket, which you can do like at Mom's or wherever, and I'm giving them to whoever asks questions. Were there any other questions? You get a bag. What's that? Yes. Yeah. Yeah, actually, did you guys know what permaculture was before I started talking? Okay. I was kind of curious. I guess I should have asked that. I don't present very much, so you could probably tell. Anybody else? Would anybody like a bag? You can use it for buying in bulk, or you can use it for anything else. I won't judge. What's that? Yeah. Yeah, they'll tear it, so then they'll take that amount off. All right, thanks.
Cool. Thanks, everybody. Show and tell number 5,326. Thank you all for coming. All of our presenters are still here. So if you have questions for them, let them know. Talk to them. Play a game. Read a permaculture book. Sign up to do yoga. Okay, bye, guys.